Welcome back. This is 4 old-fashioned baking powder biscuits, and 4 is sometimes more biscuits than I make for 2 people. I sometimes just make 1 biscuit per person, but these are my favorite biscuits in the world, so 4 is actually almost not enough for 2 people. And the ingredients have been pre-measured. The one thing I do when I'm making biscuits or bread is I take my rings off because I find that the dough gets into my rings, so we are ring-free today. The oven is preheating to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and we start with a cup of flour, AP flour, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon salt. Get those blended. We've been making this in my family for possibly longer than I've been alive, but definitely for most of my life. The shortening, this is a 1/4 cup of shortening, and it's going to be cut into the flour mixture. There's a couple of ways you can do this. If you have a pastry blender, you can use that. I don't. I haven't bothered to pay for one, because you can also do it with a fork, as I'm doing here. Or another option, 2 table knives. You can cut the shortening in. I'm mostly going to stick with the fork. Normally I stick with the fork partly just to reduce the number of dishes I have to wash. Now I have to wash these knives, but it's fine. And what we're aiming for here is a consistency of coarse meal. So we've got a little ways to go. I asked my mom a couple of months ago, since she's the one who's been making this all my life, whether this was a family recipe or whether she got it out of a cookbook. Does she remember? Because we've been making it for so long. And she said that she's pretty sure she got it out of a cookbook. Probably one of those Pillsbury style grocery store checkout cookbooks that so many of us fall prey to when we're standing in line. Whatever it is, they are soft and they have fantastic flavor, and they just, oh, I love them so much. You can use them with, you could probably use them for savory things like biscuits and gravy. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of biscuits and gravy. I like them best with grape jam. That's just my personal preference. I've also had them with butter, I've had them with honey, I've had them with butter and jam, butter and honey, and quite a few other jams. It's really just personal preference. The shortening is pretty well cut down at this point. I don't see any real large chunks in there. So I actually didn't make this recipe for a lot of years after I moved out, because I thought that this step, when I read it in the recipe, for some reason I thought it would be more difficult than it was, and it intimidated me. And then one day I thought, I haven't had those biscuits in so long since I lived so far from my family, and I'm going to give it a try. And I made it and realized that I had been missing out for years, when it's actually very easy to do. The milk measurement, as you can see in the recipe, is 1/3 to 1 cup of milk. This measurement here is the 1/3 cup. You start with the smaller amount and may need to add more, which I have set aside in case I need it. We're going to stir this until the mixture is pulling away from the sides of the bowl. We'll see whether or not we need any more. Probably. But we'll see. It is a nice sticky dough here. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more, I think, of the milk. And whatever you need, you only add the additional milk in small amounts. Don't just add the whole remainder of the estimated measurement. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's hard to see with the light, but there's a lot of dry under here that's not getting incorporated. So I'm going to add in a little bit more milk. That'll be all I need. That actually might be slightly more than I needed, but we want a moist, sticky dough, which this is, that pulls away from the sides, which this does. So the next step is to toss this on a floured surface. I had this out in case the shortening didn't come out of the bowl very well. So this is just extra flour. This is very clean surface. I cleaned it before I started cooking. You don't want to over flour because the flour that you have on the surface and on your hands will get incorporated into the dough and become a part of your biscuits. It's not waste. We're just going to toss this a little bit. We're not even kneading. We're just tossing till it's no longer sticky, which was that quick. Now you can roll this out a little tiny bit more. You can roll this out with a rolling pin. I just kind of press it. It needs to be about a ½ inch to an inch thick. And then you can cut it with a cutter into shapes, little circles or whatever, or you can do the simple thing and with a knife, or here, cut it into 4 approximately even-sized biscuits. These go onto an ungreased cookie sheet, and they go into the oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 to 12 minutes. You're looking for a light golden brown color, and when they have reached that, I will be back. And here are the completed biscuits. They're a little bit light, but I decided to pull them now because I'd rather that they not go over and burn, and they'll still taste good. You can see the bottom is nice and brown, and the inside is flaky, and probably can't see the steam coming off of them, but they are hot, which is the best way to serve them. And I have a few serving choices that I will use, and various pictures of those will be on the website along with the recipes. For example, a little bit of pomegranate jelly that I made, which we've had on these biscuits before, and it's really good. We also have some pear butter, some spiced peach butter, and I think the other one I will eat myself with the grape jam. That is my favorite. So these are old-fashioned baking powder biscuits, nice and quick and delicious, and enjoy.